Reading Tomer Devorah, we're up to the first attribute. Who Hashem is like you. This attribute teaches us that Hashem bears insult and endures offense to an extent that we cannot fathom. Certainly nothing is hidden from his eyes. Furthermore, our very existence every moment is sustained by the supernal force that flows from above. Thus, no sin has ever been committed unless at that very instant the person was sinning. Hashem was knowingly granting him the power to exist and move his limbs. Even though the sinner uses that force to sin, Hashem does not withhold it from him at all. HaKadosh Baruch Hu bears the affront of supplying him with power and movement of his limbs. While he uses that power at that moment for sin, iniquity, and provocation, Hashem endures it. Do not say that Hashem is unable to hold back from him that goodness of chas v'chalila. In a moment, Hashem could paralyze a sinner's hand and feet, as he did with Yerovam. Although Hashem has the ability to withdraw that power, he grants, and he could say, "Since you sin against me, do so with your own power, not with mine." Despite this, Hashem does not withhold goodness as he not to suffer the disgrace. He gives the sinner power in his goodness. Hashem's endurance and patience defies description. For this reason, the angels call Hashem Melech Olav, the king who endures disgrace. This is meaning of who Hashem is like you. You are Hashem, who does kindness and goodness. You are Hashem, who has the power to take revenge and gather what is yours. Nonetheless, you endure and tolerate disgrace until the sinners return into Teshuvah. This is an attribute that man must emulate, to endure. Even if he is insulted to such an extent, he should not withhold his goodness from the one who receives it. Definition of the attribute. When a person constantly does favors for another and is one day met with a tremendously offensive display of ingratitude, in which the beneficiary of his kindness uses the very favor he bestowed in order to harm him, it is difficult insult to bear. If he nonetheless continues to bestow the same favor that was against him, with the hopes that one day the beneficiary will make amends, and he displays a restraint of anger which ascends to heaven and awakens Hashem's attribute of mercy expressed by who Hashem is like you, bringing that element of mercy into this world. Practical example. The Jacoby boys stood outside the door of their downstairs neighbor, Mr. Leibowitz, with flushed faces. Our father wanted to ask, "You see, we are making a Shever Brachot for tonight," said Yehoshua hesitantly. His 5-year-old brother, Chaim, filled in the rest. "We are making the Shever Brachos outside in the yard of the building." And our father asked if we could plug the loudspeaker into the electricity in your house. "You're bringing loudspeakers?" asked Mr. Leibowitz. "Not us," Yehoshua quickly explained. "Our father." "Oh, I understand," said Mr. Leibowitz, nodding. "Tell your father that he can use my electricity." The Jacoby children did not wait for him to finish his answer, but went running up the stairs, whooping with delight. "Tati, Tati, Mr. Leibowitz he lets," the children yelled as they ran. From that moment on, the stairwell in the building saw a constant flow of activity. The Jacoby children ran up and down the stairs, bringing down everything they would need for the Shever Brachos. The boys dragged out tables, benches, and set them up. The girls spread tablecloths and folded napkins. Mr. Leibowitz cast an uncertain glance at the proceedings. Making a Shever Brachos in the common yard of their building seemed like a strange idea to him. But then again, no one asked his opinion. They just asked to use his electricity. It was not a difficult request after all. If it made other Jews happy, why not? Night fell and an extension cord was drawn through a thin crack in his front door, connected to the other side of the loudspeakers and the lights in the yard. Inside the Leibowitz home, Mrs. Leibowitz, the bubby, of the neighborhood served dinner. It sure sounds Labadic out there, she said. And loud, too, she added. Midnight approached, and the festivities were still going on strong. Speeches were made, amplified loudly on the powerful loudspeaker. The sound of the song and dance filled the air. Finally, Mr. Leibowitz called Mr. Jacoby on his cell phone and asked if he could please stop using the loudspeaker. It's almost midnight, he explained. Sure, no problem, soon. Mr. Jacoby hung up the phone. Mr. Leibowitz wondered what Mr. Jacoby meant by soon. A few minutes, a few hours. He went outside to the yard and met little Chaim. Could you please tell your father that it's time to stop the noise, he asked. He needed to wake up early the next morning to attend his Daf Yomi Shir before davening. Why not just unplug the extension cord, suggested Mrs. Leibowitz. Why not indeed, he thought to himself. Wouldn't that be the simplest solution? Where did they get the electricity to make the loudspeaker work and keep him up? From his own outlet. He had the ability and every right to unplug it and stop the nuisance. He got up to follow his wife's suggestion, and it was his house and his electricity, so why not? Why give them the power to keep bothering him? Just before he pulled the plug, he took a look out into the yard and reconsidered. The children were dancing, the guests were rejoicing, and that very moment began a festive dance around the chassan. How would they feel if suddenly the power went out with a bang, leaving the entire Sheva Brachos in the dark? They worked so hard to prepare it, and it was so important to them. Was it really nice to ruin their festivities? When his wife saw him hesitating, she asked, Would you like me to unplug it for you? No, don't unplug it, he answered. No matter how much they are disturbing us, I don't want to ruin their Sheva Brachos. Let us follow in the ways of Hashem, continues, giving even those who use his gift against him. He gives good health and strength, even to people who use them to sin. Mrs. Leibowitz looked at her husband and smiled. May Hashem also keep granting his blessings upon us, she added, as befitting the sweet bubby of the neighborhood. She then stepped out to wish a heartfelt mazel tov to Mrs. Jacoby with the happy satisfaction of having passed the difficult test. Thank you.